Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unbound Season 2, The Weight of Truth. I am Beth. Hi. Today, I'm going to read about one of the most transformative experiences of my life. I spent almost 2 years training for and then ultimately running a marathon. If someone had told me when I was as big as I was that I would run 26.2 miles, I probably would have laughed in their face. Maybe cried, maybe both. I don't know. Anyway, this is chapter 10 in the book, 26.2 Miles of Truth. Training for a marathon when you started as large as I did isn't just about running. It's about confronting every lie you've ever told yourself about what you're capable of. When I first announced I was going to run a marathon, people looked at me like I had 16 heads, and honestly, I didn't blame them. A few years earlier, I couldn't walk around the block without getting winded. Now I was talking about running 26.2 miles. What a nutter. But here's what I learned by that point. The biggest distance isn't between where you are and where you want to go. The biggest distance is between what you think you can do and what you can actually do. Marathon training became my PhD program in getting comfortable with discomfort. I didn't start right away. I was doing endurance type training during my weight loss journey, walking a lot. But when I started training for the marathon, I was hovering around 175 pounds. I was training 2 to 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, not because I was obsessed or extreme, but because that's what it takes to prepare your body to run for potentially over 4 hours straight, maybe 5. In my case, it was 4 hours, 34 minutes, and 55 seconds on my 40th birthday. When you're starting from a place of complete physical dysfunction. The endurance training was the hardest part, both physically and mentally. Running for hours is boring as hell. Your mind has nowhere to hide. You can't distract yourself with your phone or TV or food. It's just you, your thoughts, and the pavement stretching out in front of you. That's where I learned the difference between discomfort and danger. Discomfort is when your legs are tired, but you can keep going. Danger is when something is actually wrong and you need to stop. For years, I had treated any discomfort as danger. Any physical challenge is a signal to quit. Any mental difficulty is evidence that I wasn't cut out for whatever I was trying to do. But marathon training taught me that discomfort is where growth lives. Discomfort is the price of admission to becoming someone you've never been before. The worst part wasn't the long runs, though. It was the blood blisters. Deep, painful blood blisters on my heels and feet that made every step feel like walking on broken glass. They would form during training runs, pop, reform, and then get worse. I'd wake up in the morning and putting my feet on the floor was agony. Walking to the bathroom was torture. Going up or downstairs was almost unbearable. But I kept training, not because I was tough or special or had some superhuman pain tolerance, because I had learned something crucial. The pain of staying the same had become worse than the pain of changing. Here's what déjà vu looked like during marathon training. The fact, my feet were covered in painful blood blisters that made every step hurt. My old thought pattern would have been, this is too hard, I'm not cut out for this, I should quit. My new thought, discomfort is temporary, I'm building something bigger than today's pain. Yes, I'm also crazy. How that thought made me feel. Determined, focused on my long-term goal instead of today's discomfort. My actions, I kept training. I found better shoes, used blister prevention products, adjusted my technique, but I didn't quit. The result, I got stronger, both physically and mentally. Eventually, those blisters healed and stopped forming. I proved to myself that I could endure more than I thought possible. The mental endurance was actually harder than the physical endurance. Your body can run much further than your brain wants to let it. Your brain is constantly trying to protect you by telling you to stop, slow down, quit, take the easy way out. Marathon training became boot camp for ignoring the voice in my head that said, this is too hard, and listen instead to the voice that said, you can do hard things. Every long run was practice in not believing everything I thought. Every time my brain said, you should stop now, I learned to say, thanks for your concern, but we're going to keep going. Every time discomfort tried to convince me I was in danger, I learned to assess the actual situation instead of just reacting reacting to the feeling. This skill, the skill of continuing when things get uncomfortable, became the most valuable thing I learned from marathon training. More valuable than the weight I lost, more valuable than the fitness I gained, more valuable than the race medal I eventually earned. Because life is a marathon, not a sprint, and most people quit when it gets uncomfortable, not when it gets impossible. Marathon training taught me that the difference between people who achieve their goals and people who don't isn't talent or genetics or luck. It's the willingness to keep going when everything in your body and brain is telling you to stop. It taught me that you can be tired and still take another step. You can be in pain and still move forward. You can be uncomfortable and still be safe. You can want to quit and still choose to continue. But, big but, rest is definitely necessary. You don't always have to push yourself, and you shouldn't. Listen to the truths your body is telling you, not the lies your head is. The day of the marathon, I wasn't just running 26.2 miles. I was proving that the woman who had all but given up was capable of incredible things. I was demonstrating that transformation isn't just possible, it's inevitable when you are willing to endure the discomfort of becoming someone new. Finishing that marathon wasn't just about crossing a finish line. It was about crossing the line between the person I used to be and the person I was becoming. It was about proving that the story I had told myself about my limitations was fiction. Listen, you don't have to run a marathon to learn these lessons. You just need to find something that scares the bejesus out of you enough to make you grow, something that requires you to get comfortable with discomfort, something that forces you to keep going when you want to quit. Maybe that's losing weight. Maybe that's starting a business. Maybe that's going back to school. Maybe that's having a difficult conversation. Maybe that's learning a new skill. The specific goal doesn't matter. What matters is choosing something that requires you to become someone you've never been before. The secret is you already have everything you need to do hard things. You just haven't proven it to yourself yet. Every time you choose discomfort over comfort, growth over stagnation, the unknown over the familiar, you're training for the marathon of your life. You're building the endurance to keep going when things get difficult. You're developing the mental strength to ignore the voice that says you can't and listen to the voice that says you can. The marathon taught me that I was capable of so much more than I had ever imagined, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It taught me that the stories I'd been telling myself about my limitations were just that, stories, and stories can be rewritten. You don't have to run 26.2 miles to discover what you're capable of, but you do have to be willing to find out. You do have to be willing to get uncomfortable. You do have to be willing to keep going when every part of you wants to quit. Because the other side of that discomfort is progress, growth, and a version of yourself you've never met before. And she's been waiting for you to get out of your own damn way so that she can show you what she can do. Real talk questions. What's the difference between being uncomfortable and being in danger? Most of us treat discomfort like danger and use it as an excuse to quit. But discomfort is just your body and brain's way of saying this is new and challenging. Danger is when you're actually at risk of harm. Learn the difference. When was the last time you did something that scared you? If you can't remember, you've been playing it too safe. Growth requires fear. Comfort requires nothing, which is why it leads nowhere. What story do you tell yourself about what you can't do? I'm not a runner. I'm not good with numbers. I'm not creative. I don't have willpower. Most of these stories are based on old evidence from a previous version of yourself. What if they're no longer true? Endurance test challenge. Pick something slightly uncomfortable and do it for 3 days straight. Notice the mental chatter. Examples. Take a cold shower for 30 seconds longer than feels comfortable. Walk for 10 minutes when you don't feel like it. Say no to dessert when you want it. Wake up 15 minutes earlier than usual. Do 10 push-ups, wall, knee, regular, whatever challenges you. The goal isn't the activity itself. The goal is practicing the skill of doing something when you don't feel like it. You don't need to keep up with it forevermore. Just try it for 3 days to show yourself you can. Pay attention to what your brain tells you. This is stupid. I don't want to. I'll start tomorrow. This is too hard. I have better things to do. Those thoughts will come. Notice them. Thank your brain for trying to protect you. Then do the thing anyway. Discomfort versus danger assessment. The next time you want to quit something, ask yourself, am I actually in danger or just uncomfortable? Danger, chest pain, sharp shooting pain, inability to breathe. Discomfort, muscle fatigue, feeling tired, wanting to stop. What is my brain trying to protect me from? Physical harm? Listen to this. Embarrassment, failure, or hard work? Ignore this. What would happen if I continued for just 2 more minutes? Often the answer is nothing bad. I'd just prove I'm stronger than I thought. What would future me want current me to do? Future me always votes for doing the hard thing now. Marathon mindset practice. Every day this week, practice one of these marathon thoughts. Discomfort is temporary, but quitting lasts forever. I can do hard things. This feeling will pass, but my character is being built. I don't have to feel like doing something to do it. The person I'm becoming is worth today's discomfort. Use these thoughts when you want to quit something important, when you want to eat when you're not hungry, when you don't want to exercise, when you want to avoid a difficult conversation. Truth bomb. You don't have to run a marathon to discover what you're capable of, but you do have to be willing to get uncomfortable. You do have to be willing to keep going when you want to quit. You do have to be willing to find out who you become when you stop limiting yourself. The marathon of your life is happening right now. Every day you choose growth over comfort, you're training for it. Every time you push through discomfort, you're building endurance. Every time you keep going when you want to quit, you're proving you can do hard things. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to test your limits. Start testing them today. The version of yourself you haven't met yet is waiting on the other side of your comfort zone, and she's been training for her whole life. Okay, so running a marathon on my 40th birthday and finishing it in 4 hours and 34 minutes and 55 seconds, that wasn't just a race, that was a statement, a declaration of sorts, proof that the woman who was Googling those terrible things when she was 394 pounds was capable of things she never dreamed possible. But I want to be clear about something. The marathon itself wasn't the hard part. The hard part was every single training run leading up to it. The hard part was getting up at 5 a.m. to run before having to do my day. Running for hours in the rain or the heat or when I was tired or when I didn't feel like it or when every part of my body hurt. The hard part was those blood blisters. Like I'm talking deep, super painful bleeding blisters on my heels and feet that, made every step agony, so bad. And I kept going. And I know that almost sounds contradictory to the entire message that I'm trying to get across in this book. How I just kind of forced myself and kept going. Like that almost sounds like that toxic kind of narrative, but you'll understand more as we go on. Anyway, my brain, my protective, well-meaning brain kept telling me to stop because it was too much and you're hurting yourself and you should quit. It's not worth it. But what I learned, my brain lies to me all the time. My brain wants me to be comfortable and safe means never challenging myself or growing or discovering what I'm capable of. And I learned that my body was stronger than I thought because, my body adapted and my body healed and it was pretty amazing to watch. So I had to learn to distinguish between discomfort and danger, right? And the blisters, they were discomfort, painful, yes, absolutely unpleasant, but not dangerous. They weren't life-threatening and they weren't a reason to quit. They weren't evidence that I couldn't do these things. And like I said, they healed. My feet toughened up and the blisters stopped forming. I still occasionally get them now, but whatever, my body adapts and I got stronger. And this is the thing, that nobody really likes to tell you about doing the hard things. Your body and mind will adapt if you give them the chance, but you have to push through the discomfort phase first. You have to be willing to hurt a little while. Your system, figures out how to handle the new challenge. So yeah. The deja vu pattern during the marathon training was different from the patterns that kind of kept me stuck, right? Same type of discomfort, that physical pain, that mental resistance and the urge to quit, but completely different thoughts about that discomfort, The old me would be saying, it's too hard. I'm not cut out for it. I got to quit. And the new me was thinking, this is temporary. I'm building something bigger and stronger and I'm still a nut job, but, same facts, different thoughts and different results. And the skill I mentioned, continuing when things get uncomfortable, that's kind of become the foundation for everything else I've done in my life since. Because, once you prove to yourself that you can run through blood blisters and shit like that, you realize, that you can do pretty much anything that gets thrown your way in life. Not just in the health and fitness arena. You can have difficult conversations. You can start businesses. You can end relationships that aren't working. Absolutely. You can change careers. You can do anything that requires you to be uncomfortable for a while seeking out something bigger. All that stuff at the end, the endurance test challenge and all that, do it. Like I say, every episode. That's the skill, that changes everything. You got to prove to yourself that you can do things. It's motivation, right? Motivation is bullshit. A motivation comes and goes. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. I know, but what matters is discipline. So, kind of getting past over that bullshit motivation hump and kind of finding the discipline. That's what matters. Doing things when you don't feel like it. I didn't feel like training for a marathon most days. I didn't wake up excited about running for hours. Sometimes it was fun, sure, but, I had a goal in mind and I just wanted to see it through because in my life prior to this, I had barely ever seen literally anything through. I did it anyway. I was committed, absolutely committed. Rest being necessary, that's very important too. You can't push through everything. Sometimes your body is telling you the truth that you need to stop and everything. And continuing is actually dangerous, but that's what's important is that you learn the difference. Because most of the time when we want to quit, it's not because we're in danger. It's because we're uncomfortable, I can do hard things. Say it until you believe it. Then prove it to yourself. Say it again. Just keep saying it. You don't have to run the marathon. You don't have to find something that scares the shit out of you enough to make you grow. Like just something that requires you to get slightly uncomfortable. That's enough. It's absolutely enough to start with. Yeah, the marathon of your life is happening right now, every day, every choice, every moment you decide, right? You always try to choose hard, choose growth, always choose discomfort, and become someone bigger and better and greater. Before I go, if you want to discuss this episode with others, including myself, there's a Facebook group. Link is in the show notes. All my content is free and always will be. If you want to support the production costs, I've got a coffee at ko-fi.com/unbound podcast where you can contribute any amount once or monthly. I also accept e-transfer or PayPal to avoid pesky fees for me for sure. And you maybe. Reach out for details. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit author.bethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.